Hey, what's up? This your boy Big Man. You know what this is, man. So what we gonna do is we gonna continue talking about this Ruff Ryders Chronicles, and we're gonna talk about where we left off, man. So we left off last video in part one of this, where we're talking about episodes 2 and 3. I was talking about how, DMX is finally getting his flow. He's finding some success. It's looking good for him, man. And he's got some producers working on the album. You got Dame Grease, and you got PK, and you got a new cat by the name of Swiss Beats. Now, they got a brand new single, and it's called Get At Me, Dog. And Get At Me, Dog, when this thing hit the streets, man, it was over. Everybody remembers the time they seen that video on Rap City, and it just painted DMX as this underground hero, basically, man. Not even like he was real, man. The video, everything was so gritty, and the way it painted him as just this soul figure with the ability just to rap on that stage and bring everybody together, it was dope, man. It was dope. Moving. And I guess everybody felt that, because we're going to fast forward a little bit into 1998. Now, in 1998, on May 12th, I believe, is when DMX finally drops his debut album. Now, once DMX drops It's Dark and Hell is Hot, man, it is over, man. The streets erupt. He becomes one of the most premier artists in the game. He basically changes the rap game with this album, man. This album is a cult classic for everybody. It's not even a cult classic. It's just a hip-hop classic album, man. And it was definitely a way to usher in a new sound, because a lot of the tracks, man, were dope, man. Now, 13 of the tracks were produced by Dame Grease, and then 8 tracks were produced by PK. And then, Irv Gotti, he also was on there producing, and Swiss Beats had 1 track on the album. Now, all these producers were working on this project and made it a masterpiece, and DMX is seeing millions and millions upon sales. I mean, the streets erupt. New York loves him. The whole country loves him, man. It's just a good replacement for what was going on in hip-hop right then, because at this time in hip-hop, you got this whole pop hip-hop type of thing. You got Puffy and them with the shiny suits. You got a lot of flashy stuff, a lot of happy music, and nothing wrong with that, but the hardcore is what people really feel, man. And DMX was somebody that everybody could feel. So both Def Jam and Ruff Ryders are living high and riding high off of DMX's success, man. He completely turns the whole label around, man. He ends up breathing some life into Def Jam at a time where they had nothing out there, man. And off of his back, from this move on, everything is up, man. Positive, man. It just becomes Def Jam is back in the seat that they're supposed to be at, or that they were traditionally in, as the premier hip-hop label. And also you got Ruff Ryder, and all this exposure for them and their management company and their production team. And, man, things are looking very up and very good for these cats, man. So DMX is doing his thing. And it took a long time for him to get on. And when I believe D or Y, they told him, when he gets his chance to shine, it's going to be big. And they were not lying. Now, Def Jam was in a little bit of trouble. They weren't meeting the numbers or the expectations that they had previously. So they needed the dog, meaning DMX, to do something that no rapper has ever done before. So Lear Cohen goes in his pocket and he puts a bet down. And he says, I bet you guys. Now, realize, they just dropped the biggest album ever for Ruff Ryder in their camp in May, right? So they're being asked to drop another album that very same year, just to meet the fiscal expectations of Def Jam at the time. So Lear Cohen put $1 million down as a bet, said, if you guys can drop another hit #1 album like that this year, you know what I'm saying, $1 million, I'll pay y'all $1 million. So DNY was like, bet. And DMX was probably like, bet too. And they said, forget it, man, let's go to work. And the crazy thing about DMX is all the rhyme books he had. Now, anybody who's used to be a rapper or really took the craft of rapping seriously, you know how important your rhyme books are. You draw on them, you do a lot of stuff, you keep them, but eventually when you give up on that passion, you throw them away, right? Not DMX, man. DMX, in his rhyme books, had both of those hit albums. He had all these albums in his rhyme books, man. So his rhyme books from back in the day, like a lot of the hits that he had back in like 1992 and stuff, and people were turning them down, he still had those hits in his rhyme book, and those became hits later on in 1998. But here's where a lot of the drama came. So they've got to make another album quick. DMX, it's November of 1998. DMX and his camp and everybody, they band together and they start working on Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood. Another hip-hop classic. Another amazing DMX album. But all the drama comes because the producers are feeling left out, man. They're feeling like they're trying to work them in when they were the main producers like PK and Dame Grease. When Swiss Beats, he's family member, man. He is the nephew of both D and Y and Siobhan Dean, and they want Swiss to be the primary producer on this joint. So that's causing a lot of issues between the camp, man. And you can understand it from PK's perspective. You could tell from this that he still seems a little bitter right now. You like, man, they tried to play me. But, man, it's like working for any business, man. If they have a family relationship at that business, at some point or later, family is going to always trump whatever you bring to the table. So I know you did hard work on the albums, man, in the past, but come on, bro. You know, if they're already grooming their nephew to be a hot producer and he's making some amazing beats, it's not like he's not an ill producer. He's making new sounding beats. He's coming up with a brand new sound. Swiss Beats brought a brand new sound. So you know it's going to be some favoritism, dog. Come on, man. You already need to be planning your escape plan. But he was so invested in being Double R and loyal to the team because dude just stayed loyal to a fault. I mean, he should have seen the writing on the wall. I know Dame Grease saw the writing on the wall, but it's all good. So the story continues with, D and Y and flying everybody out. They go to LA for some reason to record this album. I guess it was just on some Big Willie stuff. They wanted to show some money or whatnot. And man, in 1 month, they get this thing smashed out. Not to mention, they introducing new sounds, and it's a banger. Now, while they're in LA, Swiss Beats hampers down. Everybody else partying, doing whatnot, man. He says, forget it. I'm going to spend all day, all night working on beats. It sounds a lot like the situation that they had over in Master P and No Limit, man. Because you got this work environment where they're constantly churning out records, constantly churning out hits. And it seems like that formula just works, man. And the key was to that was D and Y, man. And, one cat handled the business, Y handled the business, and D was more hands-on with the artists, making sure that they producing the best material. I guess he had a really good ear, man. Him and Irv Gotti, man, they were just putting in some work. There was also something that they touched about the production and the way that Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood sounded different, and how DMX, instead of being as aggressive on the beats, which is kind of funny to say because DMX, I don't think there's a situation where he can't be aggressive on the rhyme. But on Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, he kind of went deep, man. He was going real deep and talking about his personal battles and struggles. And it just showed a lot of character in him, man, and showed his development as an artist and how solid he was at his craft. So in December of 1998, only like 6 months later, they dropped Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, and the thing is an instant hit, #1. So he's got 2 #1s in less than a year. And that's the record that he had. 2 #1 records in less than a year. He was the first artist to do that according to Billboard. So DMX is riding high. So are D and Y and Siobhan Dean and the whole Ruff Ryder camp. I mean, cats are for real eating. Now, it took them 12 years to get to this point, and they're at the highest of highs. You're talking about #1 albums on the Billboard. That's when you get invited to the couches and stuff like that. And people, you become a household name, especially 2 albums in the same year. Amazing. Not to mention that everything that they're touching is going platinum and gold that comes out of that camp. And they won the bet, man. They revived Def Jam, and Ruff Ryders is now a household name. This is what's interesting, man. Ruff Ryders is a household name, right? You seeing the Ruff Ryder logo on the T-shirts. You seeing the locks and all the DMX's videos. You seeing all the cross-marketing and cross-branding and stuff. And instead of Def Jam signing Ruff Ryders as a label, Ruff Ryders as a label goes over to Interscope, which is weird, man. I mean, because Interscope is predominantly a West Coast label, but it worked out for them, but it's just odd that happened. I wonder, man, because they don't delve into why Def Jam didn't pick them up, but, since they saved Def Jam pretty much, but Interscope gave him the bag and a 50-50 deal, for press and distribution, and the rest is history. So it worked out for Ruff Ryders, definitely, because this gave them money to do stuff like invest in a street team. They had a legit street team. I remember the street team days, man. Artists don't do that stuff anymore because it's not necessary really. But the street team, they had the stunt team, which was their motorcycle club, and even though their motorcycle club starts to grow and expand later through the years and becomes a legit club, at first it starts off as their stunt team, and they another way to promote. So they were really on their grind and really on their square when they was thinking about their business, man. And what's cool is they kick it off with that Ruff Ryders compilation volume 1. Now, I believe that's the album that had the song Jigga on there. I always thought it was wild that Jay-Z had his own song on their compilation, but it was dope. It was dope. But man, that introduced Drag On. It introduced the Lox as Ruff Ryder artists, and kind of helped them shed that image that they had over at Bad Boy. And then you had Eve, man. And they spent a lot of time talking about Eve and her development and how she came up first with Dr. Dre, man. So she was used to working on the West Coast and stuff like that, man. And Eve, her story is pretty interesting because she's going into a camp that's very, very male driven, very, very street driven. And she gotta be that pit bull in a skirt. She tells a funny story though about how she kept bugging Dr. Dre when she was signed to Dr. Dre, to the point where he was like, man, I ain't got time to put her on. And so he had to drop her, man. It was funny and messed up at the same time. But when she got with Ruff Ryder, it was a better blend, if you ask me. I remember seeing a lot of those folks when Dr. Dre dropped that first Aftermath compilation, which was kind of a dud, but nothing really stuck out. You know what I'm saying? But in Ruff Ryder, man, she's Eve, man. She's the joint, man. So, she killed it. She killed it. She's probably one of my favorite rappers on Ruff Ryder. I ain't even gonna lie. Like, of course, you got the Lox and stuff. I think I like them all, man. Drag On was dope too, but Eve, she was different, man. She was different. She had a different perspective, and it just worked, man. But Eve goes on to even have a hit album, man. She had later hit albums, but man, they just can't miss it this time, man. They are killing it. And something that becomes crazy that they got to worry about is the money that comes with the success. You know what I'm saying? More money, more problems. And they were getting a lot of money, man. They get money through their clothing line. Remember them jean jacket suits and stuff like that? They get money off the albums. They getting money, man. Ruff Ryders as a whole is just really, really getting that paper, man. And it's a long time paid off. Now, while everybody else is in a daze because of all the success and they are really feeling themselves and they loving the money and stuff, DMX is going in a downward spiral, man, somehow, man. But they say that, man, money was never his thing. Like, he gave away most of his money early in his career. Just gave it away. Like, he would give people stuff like, people who were on the street and stuff like that, man. If he seen a bum or somebody who was homeless, he would just hook them up or whatever, man, and sit there and talk to them. Like, and I thought about it. I was like, yeah, man, I never used to see DMX super duper fly unless he was, like, going on some type of interview or something. And even then, he was just he just seemed like money just wasn't his thing, which is kind of cool, man. So it shows that he just wanted to be everybody in the world to know him as a dope artist. But dude is in a downward spiral to where he shoots his own uncle, man. I was like, hold up, dog. So you shot your uncle? You were so on drugs and stuff like that? Yeah, man, DMX had a problem, man. This mess is crazy. You can't make this up, man. And his uncle, crazy enough, he got shot by DMX. His uncle is worried about getting DMX out of there so he doesn't go to jail, man. And his uncle just takes that, man. I was like, what? That's crazy, man. His uncle's a G, man. I ain't gonna lie about that, man. But I don't know about letting the cat shoot me and get away with it. You know what I'm saying? But besides shooting his uncle, man, X has some more controversy, man. So it starts to end by X talking about how he feels he was owed part of Ruff Ryders. Now, Ruff Ryders as a brand and stuff at this point, after Eve going platinum, after DMX going platinum twice, and I'm talking about multiple platinum, like 3 million, 4 million sold on each album. Man, this business is worth a lot, man. Just on the publishing everything alone, then it's 50-50 stake with Interscope. These cats are getting paper. Swiss Beats tried to buy a brand new floor model Benz with a debit card and told the dude run it. They was getting real paper, man. And he was like, the illest producer at the time, but he was one of 4 producers that they commonly work with. So they all fly to Miami and they gonna work on X's album, his next album, so they can rush it out and make sure that they continue this revenue stream, right? Now, DMX drops his next album, and then there was X. Now, critics, they a lot of people sway one way or the other with, and then there was X because it was commercially a masterpiece. It sold like 700,000 copies the first week. I'm talking about, and in the backdrop of all that, this is during the heyday of the record industry. I'm talking about cats were selling it was going down like that. Cats were selling 1 million a week. It was happening like that. But for this to happen to a rapper was unheard of. It was insane to even think of. And for him to sell 700,000 copies in the first week, it was crazy, man. And this is 1999, man. And we're going into the new millennium. And you can tell that things are really, really changing for Ruff Ryders. And DMX's sound is really, really blending over to a whole new audience and new genres. But with all that success, DMX is still winning that percentage, man. Even today, when they were talking, they were saying one thing, one of the guys from the label, it looked like Swiss Beats Pops probably, or somebody from DMY's family was pretty much saying that DMX was never owed a percentage of Ruff Ryders, and DMX was saying he was. And I don't know, man. For some reason, I feel like I believe him, man. I feel like I believe him. But, Wise said that they were supposed to figure out some stuff and it didn't get figured out. And, it is what it is. I mean, even now, the royalties and stuff off of that is paying some big bills, man. They get some money, I guarantee you, man. So, man, even now, to try to do it retroactively, it probably wouldn't even have the same effect, but it would be some money in his pocket. But DMX seemed like he was content with their answer. But on the next episode, they're going to talk about the Ruff Ryder Cash Money Tour, all the fighting, all the shenanigans. And I've heard underground stories, news stories, comments and stuff about some of the stuff that took place on this tour. And I hope they delve into all that. Now, with this video, man, this is extremely long, man. But I had to get it all out there. And with that, we out of here, all right? Oh, yeah, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And we out. Peace.